Hello and welcome back to this edition of Bayou Time. Thank you so much for continuing to join us as we continue to talk and look at some of the really good things that come out of Lafourche Parish. We're excited to welcome into the program Lafourche Parish Assessor Wendy Thibodeau. Wendy, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Now listen, I know it's been some really trying times, but there are a lot of people who have been excited about what's been happening. And let's talk a little bit about how challenging it has been, certainly in these last year, but certainly since Ida, for you in the assessor's office.
Well, the first biggest challenge has been what to do with the tax roll and what is going to be the financial future for all of the taxing districts in Lafourche Parish. So right after the storm, we had aerial photography up in the air, taking pictures of all of the devastation. And from that point, my staff and I, we have evaluated all of the damage and made adjustments to the assessments. And we are currently getting ready to send out all of those estimate of tax letters the week in between Christmas and New Year's. Because of this process, we have had to delay the tax bills until right now, tentatively in the beginning of March. Everybody should be receiving their 2021 tax bills.
And so I know so much work goes into being able to evaluate those things and take care of that. Walk us through a little bit about what it is like for you guys in the assessor's office and what those steps are, because it's a complicated process to get to that. I think people get something in the mail and they don't realize how much work and effort goes into that. Tell us a little bit about the things behind the scenes that you and your team are working so hard to do.
Well, what we did initially is we took the aerial imagery and then I kind of sat down with a smaller group in my office and evaluated areas. I had to determine whether I was going to do it across the board or by area. And with the geographical layout of Lafourche Parish, it just made more sense and was much more fair to the residents and the businesses to do it by area. So the southern part of the parish, they took on the most devastation. So that received the most deduction or the most depreciation. And then from that point, I just moved up the bayou, and the more north we went, the less the depreciation. But in this process, I also bought a lot of computer programs and so forth to help me get as accurate as possible and to make this process as least burdensome on the taxpayer as possible, because they have enough to contend with as far as contractors and insurance adjusters. The last thing I wanted was for my residents and my businesses to have to contend with their taxes and their assessments. So once these letters go out, the residents will be able to look at the adjustment that I made, and if they feel like they deserve more or they had more damage than what I gave off, they will be able to simply take a screenshot on their phone of the document stating the additional adjustments and submit it through their phone into my office, and my staff will be able to review it and make any additional adjustments necessary.
Well, it's a really fantastic idea to be able to really take your time, find out exactly what areas got more damage or didn't. And you know, Lafourche is so long, and it makes it for a difficult process. And even though, you know, my wife and I had this conversation, because even though we live in Terrebonne, we had to live in Lafourche Parish for some time in Thibodeau because of just being displaced. And it was really interesting that we saw some areas, even in Thibodeau, got some significant damages where other places in Thibodeau didn't get that much. And so that had to have been a bit of a trying process for you guys to really figure out that area by area, but also kind of a breakdown within each of those areas.
Yes, in Thibodeau and throughout the whole parish, we took an average of the damage. And that way it'll allow residents to really take their documents and the damage that they have and submit that into our office, and we'll be able to increase the deductions instead of reducing the deductions.
Well, and again, fairness is one of those things that keeps coming out. And when we talk about this a little bit later, the idea of fairness is going to come up with regards to how some people have recognized what you do and how you do it. I love how people have the option to be able to document and communicate with your office to be able to say, look, I know this is what you set, and I know this is what the average is, but that's just not how bad the damage is for me. I love the option for you to be able to address that in a timely fashion from the people that you serve.
Yes, that was imperative for me, is to make sure that I did an average, but I know average is just average. If somebody else had additional damage, I wanted to make sure that everybody is getting treated fairly and that they get the obsolescence or the depreciation that they deserve. And this was after looking at the entire parish. This is the process that I came up with that I thought was least burdensome and the most fair and equitable to everybody.
Yeah, and just, some of those areas just, and we're so very thankful that people who are in decisions to kind of help, figure out, I mean, we've got to do tax assessing. It's just one of the things that we have to do. I'm so very glad that people are in that position, taking their time, figuring out what it is that people really need at this time and how to do that fairly and look at the equity that they have and what to do about that. And so I got to tell you, I'm really thankful and appreciative for you and your team and what y'all have done. And we're looking forward to maybe spending a little time with you a little later, being able to talk about how other people are recognizing some of the work that you're doing. And so we're encouraged to be able to do that. So we'd love to bring you back and talk about that a little bit. But Wendy, thank you for joining us today. We appreciate it so much. And thank you for all your hard work with you and your team.
Thank you.
All right. And that'll do it for this particular segment of Bayou Time. Don't go anywhere. A lot more local programming when we continue.